Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a stream where we really need a sound engineer working with us. We're not quite up to that level where we can do a stream like that, but so I'm having to run everything, and we're just moving past a little bit of technical difficulties. But anyway, very nice day out there this evening, and let's head into the maps. Tropical Storm Michael, as you know, yesterday that was a hurricane and made landfall right around Panama City, and it's tracked overnight across Georgia into the Carolinas, and we're now finding that in Virginia. Sustained winds 45 knots, and pressure has come up to 989 millibars. And we'll head into the surface chart. This is the latest surface plot, and you can see the convergence of the wind field, painting out a closed circulation right along the North Carolina-Virginia border, somewhere southwest of Richmond. So right there, that's the center of the circulation. And if we wanted to, we can add pressure. So let me go ahead and do that. In digital atmosphere, we can just go to the analysis tab or the station plots and add in altimeter setting. We can get those pressures. So let's do that. All right, so we've got pressures of 29.28 right around here, 29.25, and I think 29.22, that's about the lowest I can find right there. So that corresponds pretty well to the wind field convergence there in southern Virginia. And as we saw with that first take of the show, Michael is expected to move east-northeast out into the Atlantic. You can see that movement is about 70 degrees relative to true north. So we can pretty much apply that to the surface chart and extrapolate a movement, something like that. So we're going to expect to find that going just south of Wallops Island. And I don't know if Jeff Krob is on the stream, but he's located, I believe, right around that area there. Fortunately, the gusts are kind of weak, and let me just add those wind gusts. We'll see what the storm is doing. And you're going to see these appear in the right side of the plots. Not much left. Gusts of only 16 knots, maybe 21, 28 up on the northwest quadrant of the storm. So it's really died down from what we had yesterday. The max winds yesterday, with what limited time I had, I assembled this plot of the wind gusts in the storm. You can see we had 129. Now these are reported in miles an hour from official observation equipment. So these aren't like rooftop anemometers at a school or anything like that. These are actual airport and systems maintained by the Weather Service and the FAA. So 129, that's going to be official there at Panama City and surrounding that region. Apalachicola, 84 miles an hour. And down on the bottom of these, I've also plotted the time. So if you wanted to do isochrones, you could connect up the times, and we can do that real quick. Let me do 0Z. I'm going to draw an isochrone for 0Z. And you're going to kind of see something come together. Now I'm going to do 21. Okay, and then we're going to do 18, and then we're going to do 03, and then 06. So basically I'm looking for where these numbers are close to 0600, so it's going to be between here and here, for example. And then 09 is going to be up the top. So what we're seeing here is kind of a plot of the progression of the storm, of the maximum wind gusts. So starting out 18Z, this is going to be about 2 p.m. yesterday. It was making landfall right there in Florida. By 21Z, about 5 p.m., you can see those winds advanced almost into Georgia. By 0Z, 8 p.m., advancing well into Georgia, the max winds there. And then by about 10, 11 p.m., they were entering Atlanta, up there at the top, 40 knots. And just around the state of Georgia, we've seen, well, the highest I was able to find was 70 at Albany. But overall, the wind field is, as far as the extreme winds, are actually not that wide. 80-knot gusts basically confined to that area right there. 60-knot gusts confined to roughly like this, and then the hundreds are just a very small sliver around the Panama City area. Okay, let's look at what's happening around the rest of the U.S. This is a much different picture than we're accustomed to. That surge of cold air that came through over the weekend in the central U.S. has pushed all the way into the Gulf of Mexico, and it's already cleared the Rio Grande Valley. So pretty good polar air mass sweeping into much of the eastern two-thirds of the U.S., and the remnants of Michael located right around there, linking up with that front, becoming a little bit baroclinic there. And other than that, everything is dominated by this Canadian high-pressure area. You can see that the Bermuda high is gone. Usually we've seen that high kind of nosing in like this across the southeastern U.S., and there's no sign of that at all. So we've fully transitioned into a fall-like pattern. And then just taking a quick look up in the Arctic region, things have moderated a little bit, finding lots of 30s and 40s in the prairie provinces, and then looking up in the high Arctic, not terribly cold. This is going to be pretty typical for this time of year, 14 to 19, and in this region we would expect to find single digits, so they might be running just a tiny bit warm. However, you know, we do watch this area for generation of new polar air, especially in this area right there. Anything in this region has a good potential to make it into the central U.S., so we watch that region pretty carefully. And things look kind of mild up there in Alaska too. Okay, going to a regular chart sequence there, let's head into the SPC chart. You can see we got a tornado watch out for the Delmarva area. We'll just look at that really quickly. Actually, that's an MCD. No, they got a watch out. Okay, so that's going to be southeastern Virginia there. Tornado watch 409. Pretty close to the center of that circulation. Looks like they've got that just ahead of the path, and maybe the mass of that watch slightly to the right of the track, and that is where we expect to find tornado-generated or hurricane-generated tornadoes. And just checking to see if there's any. Nope. Okay, that's pretty much it as far as that goes. And let me just take a quick look at the storm reports. And it looks like there's been a few isolated tornadoes reported in Virginia and North Carolina there. Overall, not a whole lot there. And let me just take a quick look at yesterday, see what went on then. And there we go. There's the reports. Looks like Clay County, Florida, and one little spot there around Sarasota, and also Crawford, Georgia, Crawford County, Georgia. The track of the storm went roughly like that, and you can see most of the few tornado reports are close to the track and off to the right there. And there's the circulation painted out by the rapid refresh model, pretty close to what we saw there on digital atmosphere. And we've also got the dry sector sweeping into the south part of the storm there, bringing in drier air and really taking away the fuel for that storm. Upper level chart. Big long wave trough across much of the central U.S. and the Rockies. There it is right there. And we've got kind of a major trough working through northern California there. Pretty good ridging in the British Columbia, Yukon area way up there. See, that paints out a ridge looking just like that right there. And also, the other feature I'm seeing here is a jet max around the Chicago area. So there's the polar front jet. This jet max there in Chicago should be supporting a baroclinic system in Ontario. And pretty easy to find that. You know, I show this pretty frequently. We paint out the jet stream, and there it is right there. We identify the troughs. There's a trough right there, the ridges, and we're going to find the baroclinic system along the jet stream between the trough and the ridge, with the ridge downstream and the trough upstream. So that's about where we would expect to find the surface low, somewhere northeast of Lake Superior. And then roughly extending south, we would find the cold front, and then roughly extending east or southeast, we would expect to find the warm front. So that's what's being indicated by the upper level charts as far as what might be happening at the surface. And if we wanted to go a little bit extra, see that trough right there, if we can find the ridge upstream, like go in this direction right here, stick with that jet stream, and that's where we would expect to find the baroclinic high. I guess we don't talk about those baroclinic highs too much, but they are a real thing, and that's where you have advection around the high. You've got cold air advection on the east side, bringing cool air south from Canada, and on the other side we've got warm air advection coming up probably from the New Mexico, West Texas area northward. So there's temperature contrast through the middle of that high, and the circulation on each side is advecting that air mass, those air masses either north or south. Okay, so let's match that up with the thickness chart, and yeah, there's the high pressure right there. That's the baroclinic high, and then baroclinic low, pretty close, right there around James Bay and Moosonee. And then the front's a little bit ahead of where we had drawn it, but the warm front pretty much right about where we were expecting it, across Maine and Quebec there. All right, so with that system going out into the Atlantic and the high pressure spilling into the central U.S., we need to start looking west. So let's head up there. And we do have a gradient forming right in this area here. See the red and blue lines forming a little bit of a thermal contrast right there, and where it's pinched together we find troughing. So that's a new baroclinic system coming on shore in British Columbia, and we can paint out the fronts. There it is right there, and then the warm front would be running something like that right there. So that's going to be the next system to watch, and if we have northwesterly flow, that's got the potential to bring it into the northwestern U.S. All right, let's look around the U.S. and see what's going on. Back this up to earlier today and get that centered there. And there's the cloud shield associated with Michael, and also the dry slot right there. That's where the cool, dry polar air, modified polar air, is working into the backside of Michael there. We see another unusual pattern. See right here in the high plains of Texas, Kansas. That's something new that we haven't seen in a long time. That's upslope stratocumulus. So what's happening is we've got that high pressure across Nebraska, Kansas, maybe extending southward as a ridge, kind of like that. And then when you're on the west side of that ridge, you've got southerly flow. And this southerly flow is relatively humid. It's kind of cool, humid air. So once it moves up into the higher terrain, it starts increasing the amount of humidity and eventually condenses, and we get this cloud shield across Amarillo, Dodge City, and around the Goodland area of Kansas. And then we go out a little bit further west, things look kind of unstable in this area, so that's a good sign that there is troughing in that area right there, very steep lapse rates. And let's zoom in and kind of go around the different parts of the country. There's the northwestern U.S. right there. Looks like northwesterly flow with those cirrus clouds coming south out of British Columbia there. Heading into the southwestern U.S., we're seeing something new. See that cloud shield right there? That's Sergio, about to come into Baja California. And I've got a special sector that we can check out to look at that storm. Unfortunately, College of DuPage, they don't have too many oceanic sectors, so this is about the best I can do here, but this does pick up the remnants of Sergio. Maybe not all the way quite to the eye, but we do see the cloud shield start to approach the Baja California coast, so it looks like as we go into the weekend, we're going to see the moisture really start to increase in Arizona and New Mexico. All right, looking at the north-central U.S., it's going to be pretty much dominated by that baroclinic high across the Great Plains there. A little bit of a cirrus and altocumulus overspreading that high. And then on the other side, you can see lake effect clouds. So you look at that up there in Lake Superior area, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan. Looks very stormy in that region. Very strong cold air advection working across that area, and some of that cold air advection extending even all the way down to Chicago, Minneapolis, and maybe touching the Quad Cities area there. Texas, under the influence of high pressure for the most part. We've got the return flow setting up in West Texas, so the clouds have been increasing today. And we can see the high cloud shield from Sergio starting to work into the area. Northeastern U.S., picking up cloud material from Michael there. And there it is, cloud shield extending all the way up to Quebec, actually. And then going down to the southeastern U.S. There goes the fast-moving remains of Michael, moving up into North Carolina and Virginia there. And in the wake of that, very strong dry air advection coming into the back of that system there. So yeah, we're looking at a much different picture. And I'm going to take a quick look at chat, see what's going on there. Looks like things are looking pretty good there. I've got Suim and JT. Crystal Lake, 43 degrees. Not sure which one is the temperature, but it does look cold there. Carl Berghoff's got some pictures there on Flickr. Erica Baker in Coffeyville, 53 over 45. Very brisk conditions there. And David Lumbert in the Little Rock area has 64. Got Mike Estwick here and Carl Berghoff commenting on his photos there. Mike Estwick in Denver, 43 degrees. Got Ryan Toomey's here and Mike R. out in the San Francisco area. Got Funwood Tech and Cthulhu. Just scrolling through the messages here. A lot of traffic in here. Yeah, when we started the stream right back there at 7 o'clock, something in my panel, like on this thing, the levels were way down. I don't know what really caused that, but I'm going to have to probably start doing some checks before we go on. Lexi Pinkston Walsh is here, and Ryan Toomey is mentioning the weather instrument reading, Mexico Beach, Florida, 914 millibars. Yeah, that storm really intensified there. Reed Timmer and Bart Comstock, Jason Cooley, Crazy Chasers right in the middle of it from Ryan Toomey's. Dwayne Ward checking in from Maryland, getting some wind there. Dwayne Ward commenting on the WSR-88D radar velocities yesterday. And 51 in Central Ohio there from Mike Bexley. All right, let's keep it moving and start looking at the forecast. So, yeah, Michael is a done deal, so it's time to look forward into mid-October with this change in seasons, and we'll start that off by looking at the upper level pattern. So the 500 millibar Heights vorticity, a good place to start. And I like looking at this hemispheric product, well, semi-hemispheric product, to see what's coming from Alaska, the Bering Sea, Gulf of Alaska. This is where a lot of our weather comes from during the winter. And if not there, the Pacific, we can kind of see whether we've got ridging or troughing going on in that region. So starting out, let me advance this to the current time. There it is right there. You can see Sergio about to come on into the Baja California area. Let me check in on that storm. Go back to NHC. Tropical storm, okay, it's a weekend down to 50 knots, but it's still going to be loaded with quite a bit of moisture. And there's the path. So it looks like, yeah, by Saturday, that should be in Texas and New Mexico. All right, so yeah, you can see a little bit of Michael right there. And there's a little bit of a upper level low starting to close off along the California coast. And looks like one good wave coming into the Montana, Wyoming area right there. Shown up very well with that Heights and vorticity. And vorticity also painting a very strong lobe in southeastern Alaska there. So a couple of systems to watch. Those are going to be coming down like right there in the conveyor belt coming into the north central U.S. And let's run that forward. So the same time tomorrow, Friday evening, this is the situation. That wave that we had over Montana has moved into Illinois. So we're going to expect to see some clouds and maybe some showers in that region right there, maybe a little bit of an Alberta clipper. And here comes round number 2 coming out of Alberta. Down in California, that low is closing off into a cutoff low. And we call that a cutoff low because it's located south of the jet stream. So there's the jet stream, the low right there. That's off to the right of the upper level flow, so that's definitely going to be a cutoff low. This right here, that's a high pressure area, but we don't call that a cutoff high. That's just a subtropical high or a closed high. The high would have to be on the other side of the jet stream, like way up here, to actually qualify as a cutoff high. So, as you've seen, when that happens, like we had last week, that gives us blocking patterns. That's a good pattern for getting an omega block or a Rex block forming. So going through the rest of the weekend, a couple waves moving across Texas on Saturday. Yeah, that's the remains of Sergio right there. And then cutoff low out there in California, spinning around the Los Angeles, San Diego area. Next wave affecting mostly Minnesota, good jet streak coming down out of British Columbia on Saturday there. And let's run that up to Sunday when we do the webcast. So there's our situation on Sunday. Large area of troughing. And this is, to me, is indicating a lot of cold air settling across the north central U.S. out in this area right there. So there's probably going to be a surface high somewhere in this area here. And let's run this through the rest of the week. Yeah, look at that northwesterly flow setting up there in central Canada. So it is going to be cold in the Great Lakes, northeast U.S., and the Midwest. The cutoff low is just kind of drifting out around Arizona, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, out in that area through much of next week. And Texas is starting to get under the influence of that subtropical high again. So possibly a little bit of a warm-up next week. Let's see, next big weather maker. Good system coming on shore next weekend. Really demolishes that ridge right there. There's the remains coming across the northern Rockies, and one good trough descending about a week from now, yeah, about 9 or 10 days from now, into the southwestern U.S., and the model going for another cutoff low out in that area. Continued cold in the northeastern U.S. There comes another wave, so we're continuing that Alberta Clipper pattern all the way into the 24th, 25th of October. You can see that ridging just hanging on, just stuck out there in the Rocky Mountain region, which means cold air for this region here. And then getting into the very end of October, 26th, 27th, things really start looking stormy there on the west coast. California there getting one good system, and it looks like another one on its way in. So it looks like some rain there, at least for Northern California and Oregon, and maybe for Los Angeles. We'll have to see how far south that system makes it. And just putting that together, we'll start out with the NAM. There's the remains of Michael there, and going up to midnight, system's already offshore. However, a little bit of spiral bands coming into the Wallops Island, southern Delaware area, but by dawn, it's looking much better along the coast there. A few showers out around Block Island, Chatham, Nantucket Island out in that area, and by tomorrow everything is looking much better. Snow showers entering the picture there for Chicago, parts of northern Illinois and Indianapolis. So yeah, some very cold air sweeping in that part of the country. All right, let's just run through the surface chart very quickly and see what kind of patterns we're looking at. There goes Michael, here comes Sergio. And there's Sergio's remnants heading into the El Paso, Las Cruces area for tomorrow evening. And however, it is going to be blocked largely by this big polar high covering much of the central and eastern U.S. So the circulation is just going to kind of ride over the top of that cold dome. Probably a lot of mid-level clouds, maybe a few showers. But that high is really going to impact and kind of limit some of the aerial extent of that precip. However, it does look like some showers there for the Oklahoma City area and Wichita Falls area for Saturday. Looks like a very good chunk of cold air coming southward on Saturday. And this builds all the way south to Texas, coming through that area on Sunday, and then up to the north there in Kansas and Colorado, some snow. Let's see how far all that stuff makes it. Looks like a little bit of upper air support when we have these very strong fronts coming through like this. If we have any southwesterly flow like that, that can be a good pattern for precipitation in the wake of the front. And that appears to be what's happening there in Texas. Looks pretty showery and cold. Also, with the influx of dry air back in behind the cold front, you can get strong evaporational cooling. That can increase a lot of the gusts with the showers and help reinforce the cold air. So that's probably what's happening early next week. And looks like a little bit of snow there in Amarillo, maybe Santa Fe, Las Vegas, New Mexico, and maybe Raton. Looks like the showers start to die down around Wednesday. High pressure settling in across the central U.S., and let's see what the next round of weather is going to be. Looks very quiet up into next weekend, and yeah, here comes the next outbreak of cold air for the 23rd, 24th, and that builds southward pretty quickly, and GFS going for maybe some sort of tropical storm down to the south in Mexico, maybe riding over the cold dome, but that's pretty far out. That could be a potent rain scenario for the Rio Grande and southwest Texas, but there's a little bit too much uncertainty what's going on down in that region. Okay, so yeah, that's the wrap up. Let me just take one last look at chat there. Looks like Willie Greenway there in Georgia is safe. Probably got a bit of that rain and wind in his area. NHC has another possible storm brewing next week in the same region. Yeah, let me just check and see if the GFS has picked up on that. In fact, let me just switch over to the, I think we got a Caribbean sector. We'll let this load here and just take a quick look out in that region. Yeah, I don't see anything clear on the GFS at this time. Looks like the flow is kind of very weak and variable out in the Caribbean. However, as we get into, let's see, next week, it looks like we pick up some of the easterly flows that starts resuming once again. Easterly waves coming out from the eastern Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll have to keep an eye on that area. And let me just check on the chat real quick and finish that out. $51, yeah, okay. A few rain snow showers from that cold air advection. Carl Berghoff mentioning that. And for those of you who joined kind of late, I'll just give you that wind chart from Hurricane Michael. And that shows that 129 gusts. And we actually lost a lot of the reports from stations in this area. Yeah, let me just kind of move down in that area and you can kind of see the impact that that storm has had. Yeah, there's the current reports, and you can see there's a lot of missing data, especially in this area right here north of Mobile. And out in this area, a lot of stations offline. This station right here reporting missing data. And we're also missing a few stations in there. So anyway, that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you all joining. And we'll see you again on Sunday. So y'all take care, have a good evening, and keep watching that weather. Thanks. Bye-bye.